Welcome back to Coffee with the Pastors. I'm here with Nick and Ben, and we're going to be looking at Philippians 2, verses 1 through 5. Let me just read that as we begin discussing it. So if there's any encouragement in Christ, any comfort from love, any participation in the Spirit, any affection and sympathy, complete my joy by being of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord with one mind. And it gives a bunch of instructions. When you think about this statement, this if statement, it's not a question, if this or not if this, but it's pointing out the obvious. When you hear that, the encouragement, the comfort, what difference does Jesus make in your life?
You know, I just have to say, it's such an effective way that the Apostle Paul is writing to of course, us and to the Philippian church, because my first reaction is, well, of course there is. You know, like you're saying, oh yeah, well, of course there's encouragement in Christ. And so what difference does Jesus make? It's a really actually effective way of me saying, wow, it makes all the difference in the world. Like he changes my outlook, my hope, every aspect of my life and in every way. And I guess that's what it looks like to know Christ personally, to experience the love of God. Mm-hmm. So that's what first comes to mind.
Yeah. Well, your answer is great. You dodged the question. I don't know if you feel insecure, like, well, I don't know, Jesus make difference. Just kidding. Thank you for sharing what you did. My thought is you're asking, like, what difference does Jesus make in your life? This season right now, being students, working here at the church, having a family, a lot of pressure. Just sometimes I feel overwhelmed or stressed, and I think tangibly a difference Jesus makes in my life is he speaks peace. He brings peace where maybe I'll be in a bad mind place where I'm just worrying about all this stuff. And then whether it's through reading the Word, through something I hear that someone shares with me, or just something the Lord brings to mind, it just gives me that, like, oh, I can have a different perspective, a different attitude. If you were to ask my family, they would probably say even a different way of relating because of Jesus giving me peace that passes my understanding and abilities.
Yeah, and I'd probably, if I were to be more specific and not entirely dodge the question, I would have to say, like, when I think about, say, worries that I have, Jesus is the solution to those. And so I don't have to solve those myself, that he offers peace and wisdom to be able to actually address the problem and will give us wisdom. And so I do think about, like, some things that were on my mind that had to do with, like, work, and I was just so worried about them. Without Jesus, I'd still be worried today. But I was able to kind of give those things over to him. Mm-hmm. And by the way, that didn't mean just, like, let go and do nothing about it.
Right.
It meant he actually has really, given me wisdom. Here's how you're gonna deal with it, Nick.
Sure. Well, and I think that it's a good to go through these two perspectives on it, because in our minds we can say, well, he makes all the difference, but without getting specific, like, where does that really touch in my life? And I think that my family would probably say, well, I'm glad that you, Dad, have some of Jesus in you, because otherwise you'd be really self-centered. You'd be really, focusing on what is this about me? Mm-hmm. As far as, like, this talks about the encouragement we find in Christ, or the comfort, or the participation with the Spirit, working together in this community of God. We wouldn't do that apart from Christ. We would be, what is it? How do I gain something out of this personally? Mm-hmm. this text continues talking about what not to do. And I like putting the positive side of that, the idea of having a common mission as a church, or to have this unified love. When you think about being of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord, unity, or having compassion for people, as opposed to self-centeredness, how does that play out in life?
That's should have given me some time for that one. How does that? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is just the mission of the church. It's not like we have to wonder what is our purpose here. He told us to go and make disciples.
Yeah.
So we know the mission. But for our church, there's some very specific things that he's called us to, like this community, like the training up of our own kids, so that they too would know Christ and the faith. So it's not like we have to wonder what mission we're on. We're not in this alone. We often act like we are, but we, in unity, are on mission together. Mm-hmm. And that's a constant. I mean, we know how vision casting is in our own church. Vision leaks, and we have to constantly be reminded of where our focuses are. And there's something really encouraging about that, because it gives us purpose in life and hope for what is ahead. And when we're united, we get along. And there's not with disunity comes baggage and turmoil.
Yeah.
No one likes that.
No.
But when we're together and we're focused, there's nothing like it. When a team, wins the championship, it literally took everything. And it's pretty likely that team gets along.
Oh yeah, it's true.
I think of it to a couple of levels. The first that comes to mind is kind of the easiest to wrap my mind around is as an individual and as a member of my family. If I'm going to put their interest first, or to love them, listen to what they're experiencing, be compassionate, be interested in what they're interested in, before that happens, I need to get over myself.
Yeah.
And we talked about that earlier, is trusting in Christ and having his peace, so that I'm no longer just thinking about the list of things that I have on my plate. But I can set that aside, not ignore it, but just, oh Lord, you're going to help me take care of that in the right time, right way, and then listen to what is my kid talking about and all that. So taking that, then applying it to relationships within the church, is if I'm not coming to a Sunday morning, for example, self-absorbed, what am I going to get out of this service? What am I going to get out of the sermon? Am I going to get my seat? Or is somebody else, any of those things? My mindset can shift
so true.
to loving the people I'm encountering, people that I might enjoy being around, people that I might not, that are more difficult. And then the level beyond that, to what you were talking about, Nick, is then, not only my love and concern for them, but what is Jesus doing through us as a church? What is our mission? Are we growing in our ability to welcome others, to train up the next generation, to grow in evangelism and all those things? And all of that comes back to that foundation of, how is Jesus transforming me? What difference does he make in my life?
I love the emphasis that this whole thing brings out regarding community, that we are, you talk about, we know our mission, but that mission is not just an individual, it is a community task. We are united together, and so whether it is having compassion for one another and actually caring what somebody else is thinking or going through type of thing, or whether it is having the same goal, having a mindset that is rather than our own individual agendas.
Yeah.
The end of this, it talks about, have this mind among yourselves, which is in Christ. And that's where all of this has to begin and end. It starts in what differences does Jesus make? Is there any encouragement, any comfort? And then it ultimately ends. If he's the head, then this mind of him, his mind is orchestrating all these parts of the body together. What comes to your mind when you think about that? Having this mind that is in Christ.
Well, when we are transformed by Christ through his forgiveness and resurrection, and we come to the knowledge of him, or come to salvation, when God does that work in us, he transforms our heart, but our mind still has a long way to go in this world. And so that's the first thing that comes to mind for me, that he is in the process of still transforming my mind, or your mind, that sort of thing. But then this is in the context of the church, our mind. And so it speaks not only to the things that we are doing, but are becoming more and more like him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And our natural bent is to think of ourselves. And Christ, in his humility, was to think of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I think of having this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, there's kind of the self-righteous part of me, or the I can do this myself part, that wants to get my WWJD bracelet out. It stands for what would Jesus do?
Yeah.
Wonderful question.
Yep.
But if I approach that situation with, okay, well, Jesus, what would Jesus do? What would he think in this situation? And then just try and, all right, I'm going to do it.
Yep.
In my own strategies and efforts, that doesn't usually last very long.
Exactly.
And God might bless that, but boy, that's kind of starting from the wrong place, because what it's saying here is this mind which is yours.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it, and being transformed in Romans 12:2 talks about the renewing of your mind, and as Christ dwells in our hearts and dwells in our lives, we are being renewed in our likeness to him, and then my thinking can begin to change.
Yep.
And I can begin to no longer think like the old me, think in the ways that Christ wants, and that can be a challenge, but also helps in terms of loving others and putting their interests first as Christ transforms and renews my mind.
I love that. That's a good way to end that, Ben, because the beginning question, what difference has Christ made in your life, is still a self-centered question.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, we have to go, how can Christ live in and through me, rather than focusing on ourselves?
Yeah.
And so I hope that that's something that we each all are continuing to grow in. But even as you are watching, listening, that this is a challenge for each one of us to have that mind. It is yours in Christ.